friends, what's up? It's me, Vindy Vondo, everyone's favorite rat. It's been a while since I sat down to record just like a YouTube video that wasn't just like a stream clip or something, considering the last YouTube video that wasn't that was the ReZero video, which I recorded before September. So it's been a minute, however, the year is over, a year that I think gave a lot of people a lot of strife, a lot of issues, a lot of problems. There was a lot of bullshit going on for a lot of people, I think, myself included. Obviously I didn't get out of 2020 scot-free somehow, but that's just kind of how it goes. It's not a great year for everyone, but I think we all tried to manage and push through. But I wanted to be positive, and this is something I've thought of doing in past years, but I never really made content, so I never really did it. But I had a friend tell me I should do it this year, and I was like, yeah, I've thought of doing it before, so I decided to sit down and list these out. So if you read the title, right, this is my top 20 favorite things of 2020. I need to explain the rules for this because they're very fucking arbitrary. Because I was sitting there and I was trying to think about it, right? And the main things that you'll see on this list and on future lists and future years, right, is music, games, manga, anime, right? Those are like the main things. Occasionally, maybe there will be like a Western movie on there, or a Western show if I watch one I really like it, or a book, right? There are other things that can show up in here, but these are going to be the main things, right? Like if I did one last year, Ender's Game would have been like number 2 on the list. So, that's kind of how it goes. That's just an idea to keep in mind. And so I do have kind of arbitrary rules, which is for everything except for music, it's only, it could be anything I experienced this year, right? And part of that is because I listen to my favorite albums all the time, and I am allowing, there's only one thing on here that's a re-experience for me. But I felt like I had to because of how impactful it was to me this year. And normally I would try to shy away from, if I replayed something. The only way I would put it on there is if I replayed something or rewatched something or reread something and had a much, much higher opinion of it than I did originally, right? And we'll talk about the one we'll get to. If you know me and you followed me the last year on social media, on Twitch, even on YouTube, or on, the Weeb Club, you should know what number one is going to be. It's not a surprise, but that's kind of the way to look at it. For manga, it's only manga I started and finished this year, so I'm not counting something like MHA or Haikyuu, which I'd started before, but this year were really good. For music, it has to be things that came out this year. I'm not allowing albums I listened to for the first time this year, otherwise like over half this thing would be albums. Because I listened to 300 albums this year, and like 100 of them were new. So I'm not counting music. And then for video games, it's really anything. There were no replays on here because I generally try to play new games. I don't generally like replaying old games unless it's like a sit down, let me sit down and play through Mega Man X or something. So video games, that wasn't a problem. And then those are the rules for manga and anime as well. So yeah, I do have some honorable mentions because there are a couple different things. So 2 of the honorable mentions I wanted to throw in were manga ones that I wanted to fit. When I listed out everything, I ended up with 22 things. Both of these were on there, and I would have loved to put them on the list, but I ran out of 20. So I'm just going to mention them. I'm not going to go into detail, but they're the mangas Touch and Rent-A-Girlfriend. Were both really, really fucking good. I really liked them. And they would be on here if I had the ability to, right? If I had 22, right? They'd be on here. And then the other 2 honorable mentions I want to mention because they would most definitely be on here, but I haven't finished them. And one of these is going to upset people that I still haven't finished it because I should have by now. But it's the Gantama Anime and probably the manga as well. I'm fucking loving it. I'm on episode like 230, I think. So, I'm making my way through. The last major arc I watched was 4 Divas. So, I really, really fucking like it. It would be on here. It would be high on this list, like top 5, top 10 easy. But I don't want to count it because I haven't finished it. And then the other one is Cyberpunk 2077. I kind of touched on it in my last video that I am enjoying my time with the game, and I do think it's a good game. So those are kind of the big ones that I wanted to touch on, and I wanted to mention, these are games that I'm playing, these are games that I'm enjoying, this is how I feel about them. So those are the honorable mentions. Those aren't a part of the list, but those are 4 things that I wanted to highlight for my year that I thought were really stand out. And if, maybe things in this list don't appeal to you, any one of those 4 I would recommend trying out, right? Okay, so let's get into the list. So number 20 is Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory, which within my favorite things of the year is starting with a Kingdom Hearts game, and it is not the only Kingdom Hearts game in the list, because, you know, Kingdom Hearts is my favorite game series, if you didn't know. That's a pretty good fucking year already, right? Like, we're starting with something that's super good, that's my favorite game series, and, you know, fucking, that's only the beginning. I streamed the entirety of me playing Melody of Memory. It was a really, really fun time. And to talk more about, I guess, what I think of Melody of Memory in like a quicker, concise way, I thought it was really cool. I really like the idea of celebrating the music of Kingdom Hearts through a rhythm game. I think it's really cool the way that the actual rhythm game itself uses gameplay of Kingdom Hearts in its rhythm gameplay. In a way that because you don't normally see rhythm games made of other games, right? And so it's really cool to see Kingdom Hearts be converted. It wasn't just like a rhythm game using Kingdom Hearts music. Playing the game, it really feels like Kingdom Hearts itself was converted into a rhythm game. And that's a really, really cool thing. I thought the game was really fun. The story, it was fun to go back through the story of Kingdom Hearts, you know, from Kyrie's perspective. And then the story stuff at the end was really cool. Some of the songs are really, really fun to do. I did have some issues, you know. I didn't like how few Kingdom Hearts 3 songs there were, and I know that Kingdom Hearts 3 was handled the way it was because it's on the Switch as well, but I didn't like the way Kingdom Hearts 3 kind of got shafted musically in the game. I think Kingdom Hearts 3 has a lot of really, really good songs that weren't able to show up in the game, and that makes me really upset. But besides that, I mean, fucking phenomenal game, really, really good. I was definitely surprised, right? Like, I was gonna pick it up day one anyways, and I don't know what I was expecting, but I got more out of it than I was expecting, right? And I'm not someone who's dumb enough to call Kingdom Hearts non-numbered titles, spin-offs. But I think this was, of the non-numbered titles, the one I was expecting. You know, like when I was going through and I was playing the other ones, I was expecting more, I think, than I got out of those. And this one, I got more than I was expecting out of it. I think Melody of Memory, and this is the first non-numbered title that's come out since I've become a Kingdom Hearts fan. And so I was able to, play it when it came out, and I got more than I thought I would out of it. Since whatever I streamed it, I've finished every game on Proud, and I started trying to work through FCing every song because I enjoy the gameplay that much. So, really, really good game. I really like it. So that's number 20. Number 19 is an album, Ugly is Beautiful by Oliver Tree. Music is hard for me to talk about, right? I've never really done it on this channel before, and I'm not, someone like Anthony Fantano who can sit here and talk about, the hook on this song, the whatever on this song. And for most music, we'll get to the one real thing on here that I do actually, not care about the words, but I definitely have, this, I don't even want to call it a bad habit, where when I listen to music, I care way more about how it sounds, because I'm always listening to music, right? I listened to over 1,000 hours of music this year. It's generally something that I have in the background, right? I'm working on schoolwork, I'm playing a game, I'm just laying in bed, I'm reading manga, I'm driving. I like to listen to music in the background. And so a lot of the time I'm not paying attention to the actual words of the song, because the part of my brain that would be used to listen to the words is being used on something else, right? So I didn't listen to, there were some songs on here that I was, kind of picking up, the ideas of. And then just to name some of my favorite songs, I guess to talk about what kind of music, it's kind of like a pop album, but not pop. It's like I don't know the word for it. I'm sorry. I can't sit here and, the fucking Anthony Fantano postulate on what kind of music it is and what kind of sound it is. I can with some of these other ones, but this one was kind of out there. It's not as out there as Gex is, right? Like if I were to talk about Gex, I would just say, my brain isn't big enough to understand Gex, right? So I can't really talk about it. But this is, it's a little bit more grounded, but it's still got a little bit of that out there-ness to it. And some of the songs I really liked were, I really liked 1993. I really liked Me, Myself, and I really liked the trio, in a row in the album of Jerk, Hurt, and Introspective. I thought were really, really good songs. So those are my favorite songs from it. And yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's not a super long album, so if you ever are interested, I would say turn it on. All right. So number 18 is Bleach. When Bleach is this, high on the list, because Bleach is really fucking good. Like, I meant to say this before I started. Everything on here, I would give like a 9 minimum. Like, if it's on this list, I fucking loved it. There's a lot of shit on this list that is just like 4x4 material for me. But if it's on this list at all, I fucking adored it. So Bleach was really, really fucking good. I really, really liked it. You know, I don't even know if I could explain Bleach and give it justice. You know, there's What's making some videos on it. He's got so many more to make, and he, you know, understands Bleach at this level I fucking could never hope to as a mortal man, right? I don't know fucking Buddhism. I don't know. I don't know. I really liked it, though. I thought it was really good, you know? I think a lot of the things people say about it are just wrong, right? People like to say, oh, it got worse after Soul Society. Wrong. Oh, it should have ended after a wrong car. Wrong. Oh, Orihime's not a good character. Wrong. Right? Like, there's just, you know, it's the classic, right? You know, it's a shonen. So it just gets a lot of fucking bullshit, a lot of dumbass shit people say about it. But, you know, it's great. I think Kubo's the best artist of the big three. I think Kubo's art is fucking amazingly cool. All the time, right? His use of negative space in his panels, he uses the page turn in a way only a few other mangaka I've ever seen utilize the page turn in a manga for that effect to go like bam, oh my god, right? Like the only other ones I can think that I think use it as well are like Furodate with Haikyuu, Morikawa with Ippo, maybe Minazuki with, you know, his cuts and shit. But for the most part, I don't think there's another mangaka I've seen use that page turn as well as Kubo does it. He's insane at it. He's so good, you know, at the technical side of making it, drawing you in and keeping you invested just visually with the story he's telling. And then the writing is there too, you know. It really is just a fucking great manga. And, you know, it was the last of the big three for me to finish, but not the last of the big three for me to love. And so, yeah, it really was something that I think was exceptionally good. And I really want people to read Bleach. And I think people should read all the big three. I think One Piece is great. I think Bleach is great. You know, we'll get to Naruto. So, you know, we'll talk about it. But fucking phenomenal. I love Bleach. And I think Bleach needs more people reading it and being smart about it and discussing it in like good ways, because it's so fucking good and there's so much to dig into there. You know, I think you could even do like, you know how like there have been YouTubers that have done like the one marvelous scene or whatever, right? You could do something like that for Bleach, where like, you know, maybe there's a day where a bunch of fucking YouTubers, a bunch of Anitubers sit down and everyone analyzes like a different fight in the manga or a different fight in one arc, because there's so many fucking fights and so much going on, and they can talk about these fights and what's going on and what's going on thematically and how it ties into the other fights. It's so fucking good. There's a lot to dig into in Bleach, and I want people to start doing it. People better than me at that kind of shit, right? I just like to sit here and fucking jerk myself off about what I like and shit, but whatever. So number 17 is probably gonna be the thing on here that I imagine pisses people off the most, because even though I made my thoughts clear a video ago, people really didn't like this game, and I really don't get why. If they played it, like, it's one of the, okay, it's Last of Us 2. And here's the thing about Last of Us 2. I understand why people are misguided, because there were leaks that came out, and the leaks were wrong. Objectively wrong, right? A lot of the things that was said in the text document of the leaks weren't true. So I understand why people originally were maybe hesitant or, you know, kind of taking a step back when it came to the game. But I really don't understand why people who actually played the game didn't like it, because I thought it was really fucking good. And, like, people like to complain about, like, oh, Abby wasn't good. I found myself really fucking attached to her by the end of the game, right? Like, you pick her up, like, halfway through. And by the time I was done with the game, I was super attached to her. I really liked her. And I wasn't expecting to, right? But she definitely grew on me by the end of the game. I think Ellie's great, you know? I like girls who say fuck. It makes me laugh. And Ellie does that. I don't know. I think that, you know, Last of Us 2 was really, really good. You know, gameplay-wise was updated from 1. I think Last of Us does this really interesting thing where with its gameplay that even other survival horror games I don't think do as well, right? Like, I don't think, like, Resident Evil, even, like, the, you know, the best Resident Evils make me feel this as much as Last of Us does, where, like, every single bullet I shoot out of my gun, I'm like tense about, because one bullet can kill someone, but one bullet isn't often you find it. So you really have to think about your resources every time you get into an encounter and be like, okay, what can I use in this encounter? How will that fuck me? What if I run into something later on I need this for? And especially I think when you play the game on harder difficulties, it really tests the player's ability to like plan and like think about it and under pressure and like make these quick decisions in a way that I don't think a lot of other games do, right? You know, you play a lot of other games, like shooters especially, right? Like, you know, I play Gears of War, I play Uncharted, or I play Call of Duty. I'm just running around fucking shooting and rooting and tooting, right? I'm just like, I don't fucking care, right? I miss like a clip into a guy. Who fucking cares, dude? It's not the end of the world, right? And, you know, with Last of Us 2, it kind of did matter. And I really, really liked that. I thought it was really, really good. So, yeah, and, you know, let's just talk about the gameplay. The story I don't want to get too into. People have asked me to talk about the story. If I do, I'd like to replay the game. And make, like, a more detailed video on what I think about the story and what I think its themes are and what I think matters in it. But, you know, and I don't want people... Look, if you're just going to comment and be like, well, I didn't like it. Okay, well, I don't care. Right? Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. I really liked it, and I think that everything, you know, it was, you know, people like to say, oh, the game's about revenge bad. Like, it's much more than that. It's much more detailed than that, and it's, honestly, I would say, like, a much more positive message than that. And there's one scene near the end of the game that's a flashback that ties it all together, and if it wasn't for that scene, this game wouldn't be on the list. But that scene is so fucking good, this game is on the list. Alright, next is another album. It's Nanimono by Polka Dot Stingray. It was their newest album. Came out a week ago, 2 weeks ago. It was good. Not my favorite album of theirs. They've been changing their sound quite a bit, I feel. And I think in some ways, the sound change is really, really good. There are some songs that I love. I loved Fiction. I think that my favorite Polka Dot Stingray songs have always been their faster songs. I think that when, you know, they're kind of firing on all cylinders, right, and the fucking guitars are going, and you know, she's singing and it's going fast, it's really, really good. And I think that's like when their sound is at its best. But the flip side of that is there were some songs on there, and there was an EP that came out at the beginning of the year that had some of the songs. Here's the one problem with Polka Dot Stingray, if you're like a big fan of them. If you listen to every single and every EP that comes out in between album releases, you've heard 70% of the album by the time it comes out. Which isn't necessarily a problem, but it is something where I'm like sitting here and I'm like, okay, heard it. I'm like going through the album and it's like, I fucking know all these songs already. And the EP they released at the beginning of the year, I thought was their roughest thing so far. There were some songs on there I really, really could not stand. And that stayed true for Nanimono. Those songs I still don't like. I don't want to call it rap, but like fast talking to a rhythm instead of singing. The vocalist was doing a lot, and I wasn't a fan of it at all. I thought it wasn't good. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that. It was still a really good album, though. I've still listened to it a bunch. I still really like Polka Dot Stingray, and I think that they just make good music. And, you know, even this album had some of my favorite songs of theirs, and some songs that I fucking listen to on repeat for like an hour. So I can't be too upset. All right, so next at number 15 is No More Heroes 1. I picked up 1 and 2 when they re-released on the Switch, but I have not finished 2 yet, and I haven't played enough of it to really have an opinion. But I did finish 1 this year, and it was a really, really fucking good game. I was not surprised by it because it very much feels like a game that, like, aesthetically and stylistically is something I would like, right? It's like a 3D action game, which is one of my favorite game genres. Travis is a fucking hero. Like, every, like, different part of Travis's character I loved. I love that he's a fucking loser, and I think the game shows that really well through its gameplay, actually, because it has, like, the two halves, right? You have, like, the cool-ass, badass assassin, you know, 3D action parts, where you're running around, you're fighting people. And then there's the mundane working jobs, such as mowing lawns or picking up coconuts to make money to do your next assassin mission and to buy upgrades and to go to the gym and stuff like that. And I think that, like, the two halves meshed really, really well together. And then, you know, just on top of that, you know, great music. I thought the gameplay was fun, but a large part of it is, like, you know, and I didn't play it. I would love to replay the game doing, like, the two Joy-Con style that they mentioned, where you can play it with the Joy-Cons like you're playing on the Wii. But my Joy-Cons both have drift, and I don't have the money to buy new ones, so I couldn't play it like that, even though I would have loved to. But for the most part of what I played of it, I mean, I thought it controlled fine. The gameplay was like... The gameplay, I think, was surprisingly good, because it didn't really get good for me until, like, the final boss. But the final boss was... And I played it on, like, hard, but the final boss was so good that, like, it retroactively... Like, I was like, oh... This combat system's actually really good, and it's got a lot going on because the final boss really, like, you know, is fucking good. And so I just thought it was a really fun game, you know, really good music, some banger moments. Travis is great, you know. I thought that the different bosses every level were really fun. I liked seeing them all. Fun gameplay. So overall, it was a game I really enjoyed, and I'm happy playing the second one. So far, it hasn't grabbed me the same way that one did, where, like, I started one, I was like, oh my god, I gotta finish this game, right? It's like, okay, it's good, but it's not, you know, there yet for me. I think it will be by the time I, like, finish it, but we'll see. It's a game that I can't say yet is on my game's 4x4, even though every other game that's gonna be above it is... purely because I'm waiting to play 2 and finish 2, and then I'll make the decision on if it's on there. But No More Heroes 1 is really, really, really good. I really liked it. It was one of my favorite games I played this year. So next is Dragon Ball. And the reason I mentioned 4x4s with the previous one is because starting with Dragon Ball, everything we're going to talk about the rest of this video would make it on my 4x4, or either my manga 4x4, but I'm not doing one of those anymore. Next time I do one, it'll be a manga 5x5. But either, you know, my manga squares, my anime squares, my games ones, or my music ones. So everything here is like a favorite of mine that I experienced this year for the first time. So, like, you know, even like, you know, Nine Mono, Last of Us 2, Bleach, I liked them. I don't know if I would have considered them like favorites, but from here on out, we're gonna be talking about my some of what I would consider my favorite manga, some of what I would consider my favorite games, some of what I would consider my favorite albums, and some of what I would consider my favorite anime and manga. So starting it off is one that I actually don't have to talk much about because it's Dragon Ball, which I made a video on at the beginning of the year. I made a little Dragon Ball in 2020, which was, you know, that video. I'm still proud of that in my Kimetsu video. If I were to do another one like that, I think I would try to make it better, but I still think that video has some good things in it. I think what I was saying was really good. And I don't want to go too into detail about how I feel about Dragon Ball because I touched on almost everything in that video that I would want to say. But just, again, to kind of touch on it, you know, I love Toriyama's art. I love the characters. I love the world he built. Not love the world, I'm sorry. I love the characters. I love their interactions. I love, like, more than the world he built, I loved the community he created among all these characters, right? I don't think the actual world of Dragon Ball is that interesting, but I think the characters and the community is. I think, you know, it's got good comedy. It's got great action. You know, I think everything from Demon King Piccolo onwards is the best part of it. And I go into detail and why in my Dragon Ball video. So if you want to see more of my detailed thoughts on Dragon Ball, you can check it out. It's a great manga. I recommend it. And I think that, you know, if you think things like Gohan should have been the main character, or, you know, the Saiyan, Super Saiyan is a Deus Ex Machina and is bad, you should watch my video or watch Nun's video about Gohan, or just kind of think about it more and maybe relook at it and re-examine it, because I think it's really well done, and I think there's a lot of really, really good stuff in Dragon Ball. But that's all I'm going to say on it. So next is, it's 2 albums in one, and the reason it's 2 albums is because I didn't know which one to put, and the artist considered them both like a part 1 and a part 2. And for an artist that changes their sound between a lot of albums, both these albums sounded very similar. So the albums are Folklore and Evermore by Taylor Swift. I would not call myself a big Taylor Swift fan. The year that Whatever Shake It Off was a big song, it was like my least favorite song, like that year, that like people were playing a lot. I didn't think it was good. But I think that these 2 albums were really fucking good, right? Like, I think Taylor Swift goes for more of like this not lo-fi, right? Because like she's not using like lo-fi beats, but it is very much more of like a chill, kind of relaxing sound. You know, very like low-key. And then it's just good music. You know, there's some songs that I think tell really good stories. In The Last Great American Dynasty is a great song. I think No Body, No Crime from Evermore is really good as well. Willow is really good. There's a bunch of songs. I mean, I could go through and just name a bunch, but those were 3 off the top of my head that I really, really like. I think both albums were really fucking good, and I didn't expect to come into this year saying, oh yeah, Taylor Swift had one of my favorite albums of the year, because that's not something I would normally say. So this is one of those ones where I was so surprised by how much I liked the albums. I think it made me like them more. But they are really good. Another artist, by the way, that had a really good album this year that I was super surprised how fucking good it was Miley Cyrus's album is a fucking banger, and I actually super recommend it. But either way, so like fucking good ass fucking albums by Taylor Swift. She fucking killed it. I really liked him. I don't know what to say. I listened to him a shit ton. Got a lot out of them. I thought they were really, really good. I would say if you wanted to hear what the sound of the albums is, listen to Last Great American Dynasty. That's probably my favorite song across both albums. And that kind of tone and sound and feel is what, you know, both albums are. And you can kind of listen to that, get the idea, and, you know, that gives you something to go with in the future as you listen. I recommend both albums. I think they're really, really good. That's kind of where I go with that. Again, music is hard for me to talk about. I don't talk about it. I don't know how to talk about it. It's not something I'm used to, and it's not something I'm going to do often on the channel, because I don't know music theory. I don't know how to describe what I like in music other than like, yeah, I like the sound. Like it's good, you know? But next is a game I can talk quite a bit about, I think. So, number 12 is a video game that came out this year. But it didn't really. It's like right on the line, because it's a remaster, but they super updated the visuals. And Xenoblade Definitive Edition, which I played this year, and holy shit. You know, people aren't gonna believe me from the full list of games on here, right? But I would not normally consider myself a JRPG fan. Not that I don't like them, because, you know, some of my favorite games of all time are JRPGs, right? Kingdom Hearts 3 is a JRPG technically. Persona 4 Golden is a turn-based JRPG, right? Dark Souls 3 is technically, you know, a fucking JRPG if you really want to get down to the nitty-gritty. And there's another game we'll get to later that's also a turn-based JRPG, but, you know, I normally am bad about finishing super long games, and especially with turn-based JRPGs, I can get really bogged down in them. I can get super close to the end, have to grind, and just drop it. So it's interesting to me that when I do finish a JRPG, generally, I really, really like it. I think it's a mix between it's only the ones I really like and really captivate me that I finish, and also, I think I like them more than I give them credit for, and so when I actually sit down and force myself to continue to play it through to the end, I generally really enjoy it. And so Xenoblade was like that for me. You know, I tried Xenoblade 2 on Switch, and I wasn't into it. I did like 3 chapters. I thought the story was good, but the gameplay was too slow, and it was one of those cases where I just put it down and never came back to it, right? Did not fucking touch it again. Xenoblade almost had that, but I kind of, not forced myself, but, you know, over the summer and during, like, quarantine, there were definitely times where, like, I had nothing to do, and I was like, okay, let me just turn on Xenoblade and play it for a little bit. I mean, the game takes, like, 60 fucking hours to do, right? Because you do have to do a lot of side missions just to get the XP to be able to fucking beat the game, right? Because the game, you have to be kind of high level, and just going through it normally, you won't be that level. So yeah, it's a game that kind of forces you to do a lot of its side stories, which makes sense because the game, it feels structured like an MMO, right? You have, you know, a bunch of fetch quests, a bunch of like kill monster quests, or a majority of your side quests, right? They're fetch quests, kill monster quests, shit like that. It's MMO combat, you know, but, you know, adapted for a controller. But it works. It's really fun. And I think part of what makes it fun is that, you know, you have your party of 3, and there's so many different ways that you can, when you're in a battle, you can use your party and have this person do this and this person do this, and then this, like when you get the party gauge fills and you get to use everyone's like chain attacks, it's like this really fucking satisfying thing, to get to use everyone's abilities to fuck up, you know, the person you're fighting, and I think it works really well there. And I think just on top of that, like, the combat feels fun, but the combat's not where the game is there, right? Like, first of all, I think the fucking massiveness of I cannot believe that game runs on Switch, much less the fucking Wii. And I know that the models and lighting are way worse on the Wii, right? Or the fucking 3DS. Are you fucking kidding me? But, like, some of those fucking areas are massive, and especially on the Switch, they're fucking beautiful. Some of these fucking environments you're in. Great music. You know, I loved just walking around these environments, picking up the little things from my Collectopedia, and just, like, exploring it, because you get XP just for finding, like, landmarks, so you're incentivized to explore the area, because XP is super important in that game, because it's not easy to get, and you need a shit ton of it. So I like the way the game incentivizes you to explore. You know, I think the music adds to every fucking moment in that game. It's a fucking 10 out of 10 soundtrack. I love Shulk. I love Rhine. I love Dunban. I love Riki. I love Melia. Like, I love fucking Charla. I love Fiora. I love the party. I think the villain is well done. I think it's you know, it gets crazy, but it waits long enough to get fucking bonkers that, like, it works, because it builds up to getting bonkers. So by the time it's bonkers, you're like, holy fuck, right? It's got some great fucking moments throughout. Some moments that really got you, like, fucking, let's fucking go in the cutscenes. Great voice acting. Oh my god. The British cast, I guess, fucking kills it, dude. Holy shit. That was a game I was constantly surprised at how good the voice acting was. And it's not because, you know, I understand that, like, you know, and this isn't like, oh, whatever, JP better fucking blah, blah, blah. I don't normally expect just, like, super banger voice performances in, like, JRPGs, right? I normally expect that, especially not, okay, I'm sorry, it's not just in JRPGs. Let me rephrase that. If you know the history of how Xenoblade got localized, right, where it was this whole petition, the game ended up being super expensive because they didn't think they could make their money back. They almost didn't do it. It was localized by, like, the small fucking British team or whatever. Like, if you know the story behind how the game got localized, it doesn't make sense for the localization and the dub to be as fucking good as it is, right? It was, I feel like, you know, that's a game that shouldn't exist. And then when it did get localized, it should not be as, like, phenomenal voice acting wise as it is. It just, like, it doesn't make sense, right? When you have games that, you know, have worse voice performances with way, you know, more going into it. And so I think that when you know the story of the localization, it blows my mind how good that dub is. Like, legitimately. So yeah, and then, you know, it's just a really, really good game. It's on my 4x4. I love it. I love the symbolism of the Monado. I think it's a really, really good game. And it's not the only JRPG on here with a blonde-haired anime boy with a big sword, but we'll get to the other one. Yeah, so, you know, that's it for Xenoblade. Really, really good game. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend it if you have a Switch. You know, you can play it in bed, and, you know, if you play it, you know, an hour before bed, you'll finish it in, like, 2 months. And sure, like, 2 months, but, you know, you'll get it done. Next is a manga. Number 11 is Sorano Toshimono, which we did a Weeb Club episode about, What Crafts and I. So I don't want to go too into it, because I super praised the manga on the Weeb Club episode. It's super fucking good. It's super funny. It all ties together in a really cool way thematically. And then I just think, you know, I think Minazuki is the fucking best mangaka at taking these, you know, standard like basic anime tropes that people complain or talk about, right, or even just, you know, are there and people see, and turning them into something that means something, right, and using these anime tropes to tell his story and to mean something more than just the tropes being there. He's a crackhead, and I think the way he does it is insane. It's fucking insane, and I love him, and I love his manga. Plunderer is really good too. Plunderer would probably be on here at the bottom if I hadn't read SNO, but SNO is so fucking good that it's on here. So that's that. That's number 11. And I really liked it. It was really fucking good. Again, if you want to hear me talk way more in depth about it, you can go to the Weeb Club. You can listen to that podcast. We go super in on it. We all really liked it. You know, and you can hear Kraftsdorf call Sonoha by Sohara the entire episode, and realize at the very end that he's dumb. So that's worth something. Number 10 is Yo Mushi Pedal, which is a sports manga about bicycling. And reading Yo Pedal has put me in this position where now, if you look on my 4x4, there were my current one, because I haven't added Yo Pedal yet. There are two sports manga right next to each other, right? There's Ippo and Haikyuu. Yo Mushi Pedal has come in, and now I could not tell you what my favorite sports manga is. Because I don't know if it's Ippo, don't know if it's Haikyuu, because Haikyuu ended and its ending was really good. I don't know if it's Yo Mushi Pedal. I cannot say. And the scary part about that is Yo Mushi Pedal still has a bunch left, and so does Ippo. So poor fucking Haikyuu is kind of left out in the fucking cold. But holy shit, was Yo Mushi Pedal fucking good. Phenomenal goddamn art. Holy shit. The art in this manga, some of these fucking spreads blew my fucking mind. Insane art. Insane art for a weekly manga, right? Like, I thought fucking Haikyuu blew me away, and Haikyuu does blow me away. Yo Mushi Pedal's right fucking up there. Fucking bananas, this man. Also, Yo Mushi Pedal, which is a bicycling manga about a team of 6 bicyclers on individual bicycles, is the most fucking friendship bullshit I've ever fucking seen in my life for a sports series. The entire point of it is like the friendship and the bond between the team. The main character's whole thing is friendship. Like, this shit goes so hard into that friendship that I fucking love, that I could not believe it, right? Because if you told me, oh yeah, a bicycling manga is the most friendship thing fucking like ever, I'd be like, no, shut the fuck up. You're fucking lying to me. But I'm not lying. It's fucking real. It's true, and it's godly. It's next level, dude. How crazy this manga is. I cannot believe it. I love Yo Pedal. It's so good. And I'd seen the anime for it before, but I didn't love the anime, right? The anime, I had it like a 7. The manga's like a high 9. Like, it's really, really good. And I don't think it's because I didn't like I just think I didn't appreciate the anime enough when I first watched it. It's so good. Oh my god. Some of my favorite moments in any sports series. I mean, just, I like sports manga a lot, just in general. And I mean, the fact that Yo Mushi Pedal is like topping that list says enough about how fucking good it is. If you were watching my chapter reviews, I sat here every week talking about how much I loved Haikyuu. I like Yo Mushi Pedal more than Haikyuu, most likely, yeah. Now, more than Ippo, that's where things get a little touchy. But, yeah, Yo Pedal's probably above Haikyuu, and that's really high praise I can give it, because I love Haikyuu, right? Like, I sit here and I'm a Haikyuu fucking stan, right? I'll talk all day about how I think Haikyuu's phenomenal, and how I think Furudate was, like, the best artist in Jump when she was, or they were fucking, doing their shit all the time. And then Yo Pedal comes in here, fucking big dick swinging between its fucking bicycle tires, like, hey, what about me? And I'm like, all right, Yo Pedal, you fucking win. Now you're fucking up ahead of it. What am I supposed to fucking do? You're just that goddamn good. So I love Yo Mushi Pedal. It's really, really, really good. And I don't want to talk too much about like what happens in it, because I really want people to read it. It's a little long. And the scans are happening. Maybe, they said they're going to finish year 2. Now, will they catch up to the current scans that are also being done? I don't know. Will we see year 3? I don't know. But they said they're going to finish year 2, which is something. So, that's the only problem, is that it does feel a little inconsistent with knowing what we're going to get. But that being said, it's really, really, really good, and I really recommend it. So, yeah. Now we're in the top 10, so everything up here is in my 10 favorite things that I consumed this year. So number 9 is After Hours by The Weeknd, which was an album. That was fucking good. I mean, the album came out around the start of quarantine, right? I remember. And, there was a lot of music I listened to in quarantine that isn't on this list because it came out beforehand. But of music that came out around that time, it was by far my most listened to shit during quarantine. So many fucking good songs. So good. I loved it. It got fucking snubbed at the Grammys. I cannot believe it didn't get nominated for anything. It was so good. I think the album killed it. I think The Weeknd can be really hit or miss with his albums. right? I think fucking was it Beauty Behind the Madness, I think is the name of the album I'm thinking of. Really fucking good. Then Starboy had like a couple good songs but wasn't great. And then After Hours blew fucking Beauty Behind the Madness out of the fucking water. Holy shit, what a great album. I love the different sounds in some of the songs. Some of the some of the songs sound the same, but I think that's just kind of that style of music. I think a lot of Post Malone songs kind of sound the same as well. But I still think it works really, really fucking well. It was a really, really good album. Blinding Lights was obviously a great standout song. Let me look at the album. Let me see some of the other songs that were like standouts from it, because I do think there were a lot of songs in that album that were good. Oh, Hardest to Love was great. Alone Again was great. Scared to Live, good. Just a bunch of good songs in the album. So I definitely recommend it. One of my favorite albums this year. I really, 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 really liked it. All right, number 8. I did not think this game would be anywhere near this point on the list when I started playing it. I started it because I had a bunch of friends all playing it. And I ended up buying it because one of them was basically about to buy me the game because he wanted me to play it. And he even told me that if I hadn't bought it like the day I did, he was going to buy it for me. And I played a little bit and didn't get super into it. And then some time passed and everyone kept talking about it. And everyone kept talking about this fucking game and how fucking good it was. And everyone kept playing it. And even people I know who play like 2 games a year were playing it and talking about how good it was. Fuck you, Jason. You don't play enough games to really say what game of the year is. I'm kidding. I love you. But it was one of those games that I think it got way bigger than a game of this size would normally get in the best way, right? I think there were other games this year that got really, really big, that were very small, but were big in a different way, right? So if you look at Fall Guys or you look at, Among Us, those games got huge among the casual group, right? And I mean, what you would consider like hardcore gamers are playing it as well. And Among Us, got fucking massive. But Among Us is massive in a different way, right? Among Us is massive with people mainly who don't really play games, right? And Fall Guys is just fun to watch, entertaining to watch. And I mean, I would say Fall Guys made my favorite stream content of the year. Watching Tim the Tap Man try to fucking get his win was fucking hilarious. But that's besides the point, right? I'm getting way the fuck off track. So, everyone was telling me to play this game. Everyone was talking about this game. And I finally decided to sit down and keep playing it. And I had multiple friends who have put 100 hours in this game just this year. Because it came out this year. But, like, holy fuck. So, I finally, I said, whatever. And I got back into it. And I started playing it. And then I kept playing it. And then I kept playing it. And then I put, like, 40 hours in it in, like, a week and a half. So now I think most people know that the game is Hades. What a good fucking video game. I like roguelikes, but normally my roguelike thing is I'll play a roguelike, for a couple months is like my roguelike go-to, which is like, it's like midnight, maybe 1 a.m. I'm a little drunk. I need to play a game for like 20-30 minutes, watch like a couple YouTube videos, then I go to bed, right? That's generally how I use roguelikes, right? That's how I've played Enter the Gungeon. That's how I've played Synthetic. Risk Rain 2 is different because that's a co-op game, so that I play with friends to hang out, right? But generally, I play these games as like something to do to pass the time with my hands. And I think that was originally how I kind of tried to treat Hades, where I was just like playing it and then I'd stop. But once I really got dragged into like the story, and I mean, I wouldn't even watch videos or listen to music. Like, I was listening to the game music, which I almost never do for roguelikes. And I was fucking sitting there. I was jamming out. I was playing it. I got a blister. I have never had this happen to me in my life. I got a blister on my thumb because I'd been sitting here holding my fucking PS4 controller, fucking hitting the button so much over like a weekend. I got a blister on my fucking thumb because I played this game so much. Never in my life happened to me. Crazy how fucking good that game is. The gameplay is great. It's fast. It's fluid. It's almost everything I would want from like a roguelike gameplay. The different weapons, the aspects, the way you can change so many things about yourself just from the first time you step into a run throughout, the ability to pick your builds in a run, the ability, and there's still luck in it, but the ability to kind of, you know, decide what you're going up through, you know, the pact of punishment once you beat the game for the first time, where you can change the actual run itself and you can change what the game throws at you, is insane. It's so cool. And then, you know, the story is amazing. You know, I talk about, I love the story in Xenoblade. Hades' story had one of what I called at the time, and I guess is the only way I can phrase it. Hades had one of the most satisfying moments for me in a story in like recent memory. Just of like pure like, yes, that's what I fucking wanted to see. Insane. Like, oh my god, what a good fucking story. Great music, you know, phenomenal voice acting. I love the characters, right? I love Dusa, even though, ma'am, I gave you all this shit, and then you bitch, you friend zone me, you fucking whore. Ma'am, I just wanted to... Dusa, why did you do that to me? Thanatos is a sweet boy. Meg is good. I love Zagreus. I love Hades. I love Persephone. I love fucking, you know, everyone. Great fucking game. The true ending is great. The epilogue is worth getting because just seeing the epilogue just is fucking wide people happy. It's great fucking video game. You know, I there's nothing I can say about Hades that every other person talking about video games this year hasn't already said about the game. The only thing that I'll say that I think people talk about, but I haven't seen anyone necessarily phrase it like this, although I'm sure people have been. But Hades takes the typical gameplay structure of a roguelike and uses that to tell its story in a way that I don't think any other roguelike currently that exists does. And I think that in and of itself is an impressive feat of, like, if I was a fucking journalist, that in and of itself is an impressive feat of game design and should be, you know, admired, or however the fucking game journalists talk, right? But, like, you know, I think that Hades takes what it has and uses that to tell its story in a way that a lot of other games don't use, right? A lot of games will tell you its story, but they don't tell you its story through the gameplay and through the base mechanics of the game. And that is inherently how Hades tells a lot of its story to you, and it's fucking awesome. And Hades uses that to tell its story. It uses it to make its point. It uses it for everything. And I think that in terms of how well put together that game is, from like that, you know, I guess like conceptual level, it is insane. It's next level how good it is. So that's kind of where I stand on Hades. Great game, phenomenal game. I love it to bits. I'm glad that an indie game and a game made from a studio that size was even nominated for Game of the Year, much less won certain awards and all the nominations it had, and all the Game of the Years it's winning from places that aren't the Game Awards, right? All the publications giving it Game of the Year. It's fucking insane to see, and I'm so happy to see it. You know, the only other Supergiant game I've played to completion is Bastion. I've started Transistor. I want to get back to it. And then I recently started Pyre. But, you know, I'm glad to see Supergiant getting this level of recognition. And I can't wait to see what they put out next, because I'll definitely be picking it up. So number 7 is another video game. This one I hinted at earlier. And this one's pretty obvious what it's going to be. It's Final Fantasy VII. Not remake. Original Final Fantasy VII. This game no, it's not. I can't say that. But of all the video games on this list, this game was the biggest surprise to me how much I loved it. I started it. So I should explain why I even played it in the first place, because I tried like 4 times to play this fucking game. I played it because the discourse around Final Fantasy VII Remake at the time was fucking bonkers. There were so many people on so many sides talking about it, and I was like, you know what? I want to weigh in. I love super fucking high discourse shit. I love seeing both sides of it, making my opinion, and then, you know, maybe I'll talk about it in a video. I might still, but I haven't finished Remake yet. So I decided to power through Final Fantasy VII. I had never gotten out of Midgar before. Like, I had never finished Midgar in Final Fantasy VII. And the minute I hit Calm, so the minute I got out of Midgar, the game hooked me. Like, I actually think Midgar is like the worst part of Final Fantasy VII and is like the biggest like I think every problem with that game is shown in Midgar. And once you get out of Midgar, it is insane how much better that video game gets. I mean, it like blew me away. The music was good. Obviously, the music was good, right? Nobuo Uematsu fucking killed it. But the two big things for me, and I'd always heard people talk about the fucking, the materia system. Oh, it's so good. Like, I had no idea what the fuck they were talking about. I was like, shut the fuck up. Everyone talks about that. I don't know what that means. But the materia system's really fucking good, y'all. Like, it's next level good. The way it allows you to customize your characters, you know, and my Tifa was overpowered, and I didn't even have her ultimate weapon. I just used, like, Death Blow and whatever fucking glove that can't miss, and she was like, whatcha! And, like, one-shotting everything. I was like, let's go, man. Do that to me. You know, so the materia system was good, and it made the gameplay a lot better. I can still say I wasn't the biggest fan of the gameplay, but that's mainly because I'm not a super big fan of the active time battle system. I don't like that I have to like sit there waiting, and then I feel like I'm rushed when it's my turn. I'm like, you know, ATB isn't my favorite turn-based battle system, but it's not the end of the world. I can get over it, you know. So the gameplay wasn't what got me. It was the fucking look. Cloud Strife is one of my favorite characters ever, and I never thought I would say that. I could not believe how good he is, and I feel like that is the one thing that in Final Fantasy VII discourse, not enough people are actually talking about, or not even discourse, but discussion, right? Everyone talks about, oh, it's a good story, but this and that, and it's a classic, and no. And I feel like I don't see enough people just say, look, Cloud Strife is one of the best fucking characters of all time. Like, people don't just come out and be like, Cloud is 10 out of 10. He's fucking amazing. He kills it. He's so good, right? People only go, oh, he's so much more than just the edgy little whatever that, like, he's portrayed as afterwards, right? It's insane how good Cloud is. Like, legitimately fucking bonkers. Because I feel like he's not talked about enough as this fucking great character, right? And everyone goes, oh, Aerith's dying. Sephiroth, right? Nobody talks about, like, fucking Cloud is so good. He's so good. And, like, it's weird to say this, but I feel like as someone who had never played the game and had only ever seen the discussion from the outside, Cloud feels underrated. Because I feel like outside of general, like as someone on the outside looking at Final Fantasy VII discussion and seeing a lot of it, right? Because you can't be a fan of video games and not see just copious amounts of Final Fantasy VII discussion, not only this year, but, you know, for the last fucking, like, 20 years, right? That game's all anyone talks about. And Cloud is, like, the one thing that, like, I had almost never heard a bunch of people talk about how good he is. And it blows my mind because he's so good as a character. It's insane. I mean, like, Cloud is the glue for me that makes, like, Cloud is what makes me love that game. His story arc, what happens with him, everything about it is so good. And I really recommend people, I understand that remake exists, and I understand a lot of people are playing remake. I really recommend, and even if you know what fucking happens, I really recommend you go and play the original Final Fantasy VII. Because I think that the way Cloud's story is handled in that game, remake will not handle it the same, and I really think that the original story of Cloud Strife needs to be seen because it's so good. It's so good. It's so well done, and there's so many great moments in it that I really want people to see more of it. And you know, if that means I have to sit down and stream Final Fantasy VII to show people, then you know what, so be it. I'll fucking, oh darn, I guess I'll have to play the game again at some point. But yeah, you know, that was a game that I cannot believe I liked as much as I did. And I mean, I'm happy to say, funnily enough, you know, Final Fantasy VII is number 7 on the list. I didn't plan that. That's just where it ended up. But I'm happy to say it's on the list. I'm happy to say I finished the game this year. It was crazy to me how good it was. So yeah. Next is number 6. And it's Nectar. It's the last album on the list, but it's Nectar by Joji. I think Nectar was far and away the best album I heard this year. There are some other albums, you know, that I mentioned. I mentioned the Miley Cyrus album. I think Jaden Smith's album was really good. Visions of Bodies Being Burned by Clipping was really good. Pup had a really good EP. I don't know how, but They Found Me had a really good album with Razzmatazz. I mean, there were a bunch of good albums this year, but I think Nectar is the standout album for me. I mean, holy shit. Almost every song's good. It fucking slaps. Fucking TikTok is amazing. Daylight's amazing. Gimme Love is great. Run is great. You know, High Hopes is good. Like, so many just fucking great songs on this album. I love Joji's sound. You know, I'll say it. I'll go ahead and say it. All right? I'm glad Filthy Frank stopped making videos if it means he's making this banger-ass music, right? I'd rather have no Filthy Frank and have fucking Joji popping out these bangers. And I loved Filthy Frank. I thought Filthy Frank made great content. But I think Joji makes better music. And I liked, you know, some of Joji's early music, but it never was something that I would have, until Run, which, you know, was a single. Joji's music was never something I would have sat down and been like, yeah, it's some of the best shit. But holy fuck. I mean, he just fucking murdered it this year with Nectar. Holy shit, what a great album. Just phenomenal. Just insane. Bananas. Really, really good. You know, I definitely fucking recommend it. Yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that. Again, music is hard for me to talk about, but I do really like Nectar. And the thing about albums is, you know, they're not too long and you can do them while playing games. So, I mean, all the albums I mentioned, even some of those ones I just rifled off, right? Cool Tapes Volume 3, Jaden Smith, Visions of Bodies Being Burned Clipping. I think it's I Hate It Here, the EP by Pup. But all of those I recommend. And then all the ones I definitely mentioned here, I recommend just giving a listen, right? Even just give the first few songs a listen, see if you like it, right? So, again, Nectar by Joji, After Hours by The Weeknd, Folklore Evermore by Taylor Swift, Nanemono by Polka Dot Stingray, and Ugly is Beautiful by Oliver Tree. All of those are on streaming services. I think most of them are on YouTube too. Just give them a listen, you know. Listen through them. I think you'll be happy with what you get. Okay. So number 5 is Barakamon. From here on out, everything is a 10. So there were a lot of things I saw this year that I would give a 10 to. And not really actually, but whatever, we'll get to it. So Barakamon is a 10. But that, okay, I need to, Barakamon's manga. So Barakamon has been my favorite anime for years now. It was a show I fucking adored. And for the longest time, I never felt the need to read it because I thought the story was complete. Obviously, I knew it wasn't, but I felt content with the story I'd been given in the anime. And I think that that's more a testament to how well the anime adapts what it has into something that's its own, because holy fuck was I wrong. The anime adapts, honestly, like a third of the overall, like, arc of Honda's character, and I couldn't believe it. Not to mention some of the things that the anime had cut out that the manga has in that kind of more fleshes out what's going on, but like just the levels that Honda's character goes to and what he goes throughout the story of the manga was something I was not ready for. I wasn't ready for something like that. The only manga I can even try to compare it to in terms of like how good it is at showing a character's growth and it drawing me into its world and its characters and its community is Sangatsu. Is legitimately the only other manga I can think of. Now, it's not like, you know, second to Sangatsu, but I feel like the appeal of them is very similar. The only difference is, whereas I feel Sangatsu's appeal is not darker, but it's a little bit more dreary and a little bit more baked in that, like, the depression and the sadness and you know, Rei and other people's lives. And, you know, Sangatsu has villains at certain points, right? Sangatsu has bad guys, people that are fucking, you know, terrible pieces of shit, you know? Barakamon is pretty happy the whole way through. Even, like, people that you would think when they show up are bad aren't bad at all. They're good people, you know? Like, Barakamon is just this happy, you know, uplifting, positive series. And it was, like, the perfect fucking manga for this year. Because, like, reading it every chapter, I was happy. You know, I cried multiple times. It was just, it was good. It was really fucking good. And some of it was definitely because of how many times I've seen the anime. I've seen that anime at least double-digit times. So I already have such an attachment to the characters that from the time they showed up in chapter 1, I was like, oh my god, I love you, Honda. I love you, Naru. Let's go. So, like, you know, it already hit me there. But holy shit is what it goes through and the story it tells throughout all of it. So fucking good. And if you like the anime at all, I really like implore you to read the manga, because I think that the manga takes what the anime has and pushes it to being something just way better than like I think I would have expected it to be at that point. So yeah, I mean, fucking insane. Like, actually insanely good. Originally I only had it at a 9, but after thinking on it and sitting on it, it definitely, and it was okay because I didn't have to move it, right? I had it below my other lowest 10, so it was one of those things where like Barakumon's like my highest 9, but is it a 9 or is it a 10? And then I decided to bump it up to a 10 because I love it too much. It's so good. It's one of those things where that's one of those manga that I constantly am going back through my screen caps of and just looking at what I have, because some of the moments that I saved are so insanely good. And the story of Honda becoming not only friends to these children, but a part of this community and a part of this island, it is such a good, wholesome story that just leaves you happy, you know? And when it ends at the perfect time, and it just, again, it ends, and, you know, you could take more of it, you know, I could take Barakamon for the rest of my life. It's just this fun slice of life, but it ends and you're happy with it, you know? You're happy with what you've gotten. So Barakamon's my number 5. My number 4 is something else that was talked about on the Weeb Club. And if you watch the Weeb Club, you already know what this is, because I mentioned that everything left is a 10. This is a 10. It's the only 10 that's been given on the Weeb Club so far, outside of Gurren Lagann, but that was a rewatch for all of us. And what was the one who gave it a 10? It's ReZero Season 2. I guess Craftsdorf gave Chihaya Furu it, but that was a rewatch, whatever. It was the first time viewing that was given a 10, and it's ReZero Season 2. Holy shit. The amount of 10 out of 10 episodes, and I already loved ReZero Season 1. You know, I made a video, my 2 videos ago previously was a video about how Season 1 of ReZero meant a lot to me, and kind of how it helped me, you know, look at some things in my life. And then ReZero Season 2 took that idea and ran with it to the fucking moon. Holy shit, there were so many great moments in the season. It did such a good job at showing Subaru's growth from the previous season, you know. And there were so many moments where just like, you know, I loved Subaru, or I felt bad for him, or you know, just great. I mean, you know, I talked about it on the Weeb Club. Those Weeb Club seasonals were long every week because we were talking about ReZero and Oragairu and everything else we were watching that season at fucking length. But yeah, I mean, great fucking show. Great show. Oh my god, I love ReZero. I don't even want to talk about it because I talked about it on the Weeb Club. I feel like I have nothing to say that I haven't already said, because we talked about it episodically. So like, fuck me. But great show. You know, unbelievable how good ReZero Season 2 is. I think it was one of those things where ReZero Season 1 was really popular, and a lot of people like misunderstood it and gave it a lot of hate. And I was so happy every week seeing people talk about ReZero Season 2, because finally it was only getting people talk about how good it was. And I'm so fucking happy for that, because it's so good and it deserves all the praise. ReZero deserves more praise than it gets, but just seeing it get a bunch of praise made me really happy, because the show deserves it, because it's really good. And I think that, you know, people like to hate on Isekai and they like to hate on the popular thing, and so I think it got kind of shoved in with these other series, but it's stand out from them because it's so good. It's so good. It's unbelievable how good it is. So yeah, that's my number 4 is ReZero Season 2. Great. Good. I love it. Everyone watch ReZero Season 1 and 2. All right, number 3. I alluded to this at the very beginning of the video with the very number 1, with the number 1 thing. When I said that it's not, Melody of Memory is not the only Kingdom Hearts game on the list. And I really went back and forth between whether or not I wanted to put this on here, because technically all that came out this year was the DLC. And while I did replay Kingdom Hearts 3, I don't know if I would just count the replay. But I decided that the DLC, so Kingdom Hearts 3's DLC, Remind, was so good that it didn't matter. I don't think it mattered whether or not Remind, I was just counting the DLC or not, because Remind has I think overall my favorite moments in Kingdom Hearts. I think gameplay-wise, it does some things that are amazing. I think story-wise, it's great. The gameplay additions it makes to Kingdom Hearts 3 are great. It makes playing through the entire game from the beginning great. I don't want to talk too much about KH3 because I do at one point. I mean, I guess I'll say it here on my channel because I've already talked about it on Twitch a lot. I plan to do like a full retrospective, not retrospective, but I plan to talk about the Kingdom Hearts games one game at a time through videos after I replay them all on stream at some point in the next year or two. So I don't want to talk too much about it right now, other than it's so insanely good that it you know, I think Kingdom Hearts 3 was already like my favorite game, but Remind makes it almost unbeatable for my favorite game. It's so crazy how good that fucking DLC is. You know, you look at what like Final Mix added, and like, you know, 2 Final Mix added, I think it added my favorite boss fight in the game and added a bunch of really good stuff. But I still think that most of its additions were gameplay in terms of game-shattering things, right? Like, you have to play 2 Final Mix because you need the gameplay changes. You have to play 1 Final Mix because you need the gameplay changes. The gameplay changes are important and very good for 3 Remind, but you need Remind for the story because, holy shit, some of the fucking moments in that DLC are bonkers. Insane how good it is at times. I mean, fucking Mickey Mouse made me cry this year. That's all I can say. That's all I can say is that Mickey Mouse made me cry this year. And that's all. That's what I'll leave it at. Other than play Kingdom Hearts and play 3 and play Remind. Holy fuck, it's so good. So number 2. This is kind of a weird one because it's not a specific like thing, right? It's not like a single game or a single movie. It's more a whole, but a whole medium or whatever as a whole, right? Which if you've been, you know, paying attention to me this year, I've been talking about it more and more and more and more. If you're watching any of my recent streams, I've been talking about it more and more and more and more and more, and getting more and more and more and more into it as the year's been going on, to the point where my brother and I like to say we have a problem, we have an addiction to it. It's wrestling. So some backstory, I watched wrestling for about a year when I was in like 2011 to 2012 when I was a kid, right? So whatever, in 2011 I would have been 13, about 13, we'll say. I watched wrestling 12 to 13 because I think it started when I was 12 and then ended when I was 13. We started watching. So, you know, I watched it and I liked it. I didn't fall in love with it, and eventually we stopped because of stuff I'm not going to go into. It got banned in my house. And I don't remember really why, but at one point this year, in March, I know it was in March, and I'll explain why. It was early March. I texted my brother, and I was like, hey, do you want to start watching wrestling again? Because it was me and him that watched it the first time, and I was like, hey, maybe it'll be fun to watch it again. So I messaged him, I was like, do you want to start watching? And he instantly responded, I'm down. So the next day, we watched the most recent Raw, which, funnily enough, was the last WWE show before quarantine. So it was the first show we watched was the last WWE show with a crowd. It was the last Raw before that happened. And so then we watched, and I mean, we saw almost the entirety of the build up to Mania, right? We saw the first SmackDown on the PC, all the stuff in the PC leading up to WrestleMania. And so, you know, and we watched a couple things beforehand, like we had watched the Rumble, and so then we watched Mania. And I think that was really the start of it, because then after we watched Mania, we kept watching every week. We'd watch Raw, we'd watch Smack. Well, so when we watched Mania, our younger siblings, so my little sister and little brother, came in and started watching with us. And then it became a thing where all 4 of us would watch every Monday, every Friday. We'd sit down every Wednesday too, because we started watching NXT. We'd sit down and watch wrestling together as a family. As siblings throughout the entirety of quarantine and up until my sister left for college, and then people got busy, so now my brother and I just watch it on our own, and we talk about it, and then we watch pay-per-views together. And so it just started with WWE, right? We tried AEW, but we only watched like 1 week, and we didn't know what was going on, so we stopped. And then I wanted more wrestling, so then starting at the year anniversary episode of Dynamite, I re-picked up AEW. And so I've been watching AEW since. And then, like, you know, within the last month, my brother and I started watching New Japan. And so now we also pay for NJPW World. So now we're watching, you know, 3 different promotions. You know, I would say I'm watching about 20 hours of wrestling a week between Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Dynamite, and JPW, and just going back and watching older matches, right? I'm watching old matches all the fucking time. I watched like 3 matches last night before bed. And I just love it. I love it. Wrestling is like anime, essentially, because you have these fucking, you know, big beefy guys telling a story. They have super moves. You know, some of them have superpowers. There's drama. You know, it's great. It's great. You know, they get beat up and they still get back up and they fucking, it fucking fires my veins up, dude. I love it. I love it. I love marking out over. I mean, I'm wearing a wrestling shirt right now, right? I'm wearing an Undisputed Era shirt. I love it. I love it a lot, and it's become one of the core things that, like, I enjoy, right? Like, I mean, the reason it's at number 2 essentially is because I love it so much that, like, it is up there for me now with just as a whole, right? So, like, not individual matches, right? Maybe next year when I do this, I'll throw in individual wrestling matches, or probably I'd do like an entire show, right? Like, instead of just doing matches individually, I'd put a show in there, right? I'd put, you know, whatever, fucking next year's fucking TLC, or not TLC, like next year's SummerSlam, right? Or next year's fucking whatever. But, you know, for this year, the reason it's at number 2 is because it was something that I got into this year, really, that is now for me, in terms of how much I care about it and I'm into it and love it and love watching it, like on the level of games and anime and manga and music and all the things that like are on the rest of this list that I've been a fan of for years now. I have a new thing like that, right? A new fucking autistic obsession that I love and I'm into, and I'm watching YouTube videos about and watching and reading about, constantly just like learning about and picking up on, right? So I mean, that's that. And if I were to give my favorite matches, so I've been thinking about how I want to talk about some of my favorite matches, and I'm just going to rifle some off. I don't think I'm going to do my favorite matches that I saw this year, including older ones, right? So I'm not going to count like Omega Okada 2 or fucking like Shane Kurt Angle Street Fight King of the Ring 01, right? Or Taker HBK 2 or Cena Punk Money in the Bank or whatever, like fucking whatever, you know, a billion matches I could say, you know, Sasha Bailey take over Brooklyn and take over Respect, right? Cole Gargano, right? I'm not going to bring up all the old matches I've seen. I'm only going to talk about some of the matches that come to my mind from this year, that happened this year, that I loved, right? And most of my favorite wrestlers are going to be on here, and then I'll name some of my other favorites that don't have matches on this, right? So just thinking about it, right? There's Drew and Randy in the ambulance match, I think from Night of Champions. I thought it was SummerSlam, but I think it's Night of Champions, right? The ambulance match that they had. Maybe it was SummerSlam, I don't know. But the Drew and Randy Orton ambulance match. The fucking Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Hell in a Cell match. The ladder match between Jeff Hardy, Sami Zayn, and AJ Styles at Night of Champions. Great match. The Men's War Games match from this year. So UE versus Pat McAfee's stable. Oh my God. Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns in the fucking TLC match from like 2 weeks ago. Holy shit, what a match. Let me think what else there was there. Oh, fucking Kyle O'Reilly, Finn Balor, TakeOver 31. Ilya Dragunov versus fucking Walter, which I watched last night, actually. Great. Oh my God. Those two guys beat the shit out. I've never been happy to see a ref stop in my life, but I was like, holy fuck, end this. This guy's gonna fucking die. What a match. What else was there? There's like one or two more I'm forgetting that I can't think. But, you know, those are a majority of my favorite matches. To talk about some of my favorite wrestlers, you know, I mentioned some of them in there. Oh, Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley, I thought was really good. And then I really liked Young Bucks, FTR as well. But some of my favorite wrestlers, I love Drew McIntyre. I love Bailey is the big one, who I didn't mention her having any matches, but I love Bailey. I didn't think her and Sasha at Hell in a Cell was like that good. Like, it was a good match, but it wasn't like the best match, right? But I love Bailey. I love Matt Riddle. I love Keith Lee. I love the entirety of the UE. I really like Damian Priest. I like Roman Reigns. I like KO. I like MJF a lot. I like Chris Jericho. I like fucking the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page. Those are most of the ones that just come to the top of my head that I really, really like. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of what I think of off the top of my head. There's a lot more detailed thoughts I have, and I would like to make wrestling content at some point, but I still feel like I haven't been a fan long enough, and I don't know it well enough to really talk about it. But I do really like wrestling, and so that's just some basic stuff from the year that I wanted to mention as just my favorite stuff, just stuff I loved. Yeah. So, that being said, that's number 2. Now I'll talk about number 1, which everyone fucking knows what it is at this point. Number 1 is fucking Naruto. Surprising no one, it's Naruto. I read it this year, reread it this year. It went from a 7 to a 10. It's my second favorite manga. I think it's one of the best things I've ever read, one of the best stories I've ever read. It's insanely well put together. Great writing, great art, emotional moments, fucking great characters. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on about every fucking part of Naruto that I think is amazing, right? Naruto, one of my favorite characters. Sasuke, one of my favorite fucking characters. Just every part of it is good. There's no part of Naruto that, like, isn't fucking great. We did the POG stream, and I get so many comments, you guys missed the point. No, you guys missed the point. Because nobody fucking understands this goddamn series except for, like, people who are smart, which apparently isn't most of us. It blows my mind. Naruto is something where I love it so much, and the discussion around it is so bad that, like, it fucking hurts me physically. Holy fuck. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good, dude. I love Naruto, and I cannot believe how good it is. It was the biggest surprise for me of the year because I was not expecting. Well, no, wrestling was, but really, I mean, of, like, media stuff. Naruto was the biggest surprise of the year. I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. I was not expecting to love it as much as I do. Insane how fucking good Naruto is. I don't even know how to talk about this series and talk about what all I love. Because there's so, like, when I just think about Naruto, it's one of those series where my head is filled with so many different things of, like, this is what I love in it that, like, I can't even start, right? It's like, it's fucking, all these things are swirling around and all these moments and all these great things about it, and I'm just like I'm overwhelmed by how good Naruto is, right? So I think instead I'm just gonna leave it. It's a 10. It's my second favorite manga of all time. I think it's phenomenal, insanely good, right? And people should read it. But yeah, that being said, that's the list. Let me know what you guys thought of this video. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is something I'd wanted to do before, but it never really sat down to do. And so this time, I sat down and I decided I was going to try to make this. I think I did an okay job. I think I got my points across. I think I did a decent job at, like, making it, getting through these. I'm not going to do a negative one. I want to do this in future years, and I as of right now, I have no plans to ever do, like, a top 10 worst things of 2021, because that's, like, boring as fuck, right? Nobody fucking wants me to sit here and be like, oh, God, high school was a terrible, like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, I'm not gonna fucking do that, right? We're just gonna talk about the things that I liked, right? We're gonna talk about, the positive ones. I might do these in the future, but I want to take a quick second to talk about just this year for me. It was the year of the rat, according to the the Chinese New Year calendar, and the amount of support and love that I've seen from y'all this year has been insane. I'm talking about this on my stream a lot, but the amount of growth I've seen this year is insane. The amount of just support from you guys, you know. And yeah, I have a terrible fucking comment section in a lot of videos, but just like you guys seem to care, and you know, y'all are here, y'all are in my streams, y'all are watching my videos, and that means so much to me. That it's crazy, and I really appreciate it, and I really love it, and so thank you guys so much for, you know, being here for me in this year, and being, you know, subscribing, watching a video, liking, disliking, commenting, watching the Weeb Club, following me on Twitch, watching a stream, chatting, subbing to me on Twitch, anything, right? I appreciate it all, and the support I've seen this year from you guys is insane. And I want to make more consistent content and better content for y'all in 2021. That's my goal. Hopefully I'm able to achieve it, and we'll see. But for now, that's the end of this video. I should end it because it's getting kind of long, and I feel bad because Namanji said he'd edit this for me as a Christmas present, so thank you guys to Namanji for editing the video. I love him, and I don't know when it'll be out, and I feel bad because he's fucking editing this whole thing, and it's long as fuck. But thank you, Nan. I love you. All right, guys. Adios. I love y'all.